This is the path we had used for targeting the battery. Notice I don't have everything quite refined, but that's the path the scope's going to take. Now what I want instead is to do a path for the fiduciary markers. So the first step is to get the control vertices on that path and have them if you will, configure them so that the path is driving the scope as much as possible into the wall of the stomach, just anterior to where the tumor on the pancreas is. I'm just pushing all of these points back just to get them out of my way, and you can see I've kind of got a rough idea where that scope is. So I'm going to go to use my X-ray here for a second. See if I can find those points like this one in particular. So I want the scope to essentially make a right-hand turn. I want to get to about, depending on where you're putting your tumor, in this case I'm envisioning the tumor being right about the middle of the pancreas. So I'm going to create a curve right about there. And again, this set of vertices I'm working with over here really has little to do with it. It's just more of a visual aid to me. So at this point, I could see if this one come up a little more. There we go. So now I'm getting the angle that I want. And I haven't done anything with the actual flexible portion of the scope, so let's take it off the X-ray so you can see better here for a second. So you can see, at least in this case now, the scope is aimed right at the target where we want it to be. So I'm going to go get the IK just to experiment a little bit with the offset. So as I come back, you can see I'm kind of hard not to go too fast. But you can see where I'm now going to bring the scope right through the wall of the pancreas, or right through the stomach into the pancreas, which is where I want it to be. And at some point I'll have to edit then so let's say I get down to about 7 here. How close can I get my flexible tip then? Let's go back to the IK for the scope. Maybe add a little bit more to it. Okay, that's a little too much. Alright, see now if I can get using the bend deformer, can I get I can start getting an idea where I am. I may want to move control vertice here a little bit further out. So remember, the control vertices are going to affect the scope, but not the flexible part, because the flexible part has its own IK. It's that automatically generated one. So if I leave that about like that, the last thing I can do is see if maybe, so I've selected the IK for the scope, the letter T, and then I can play with this twist value a little bit. There you go. That's a little bit better. That's starting to go right through the wall. That's what I want. Now I'm just maybe a little too far down. So let's take the offset back to 6.9. Whoops, that was too much. Take it back to 7. Nope. Okay. Whoa. There we go. Still a little too far now. Let's go back to the X-ray so we can see where we are. So it's really just adjusting those three things: the CVs for the curve, the offset, and then the bend deformer that's controlling the. Well, that's not too bad there. I just like to have that bent a little more. I'm gonna pull the control vertice out just a little further. See if that gets me. Yeah, there we go. Let me turn off the X-ray so you can see better. Okay, so now I'm able to get that scope right about there. Okay, so we can check that now. I'm not going to change my. I'm not going to animate the CV, but I will animate the scope. I'll animate these three values right now. And I'm going to animate the bend deformer. I'm going to animate its curvature right now. Okay, so that's what I'm getting here at 320. Now 320 happened to be a place where the dialog says talks about the scope, and then it says furthermore, and it goes into another aspect of how well the flexible needle can go. So this is an ideal spot that I felt the scope should end, or at least be in position where we can then investigate further where to put the needle. So that's why I'm at 320. Going back now, like we did before, if I go back to 0, I'm going to turn off my sound just for a second. So if I go back to 0 and then set those values back to 0, and where was my, oops, my scope IK. Turn the offset back to, let's say, 5. That put me in the ballpark a little bit. It's still a little too far up. That's not bad though. So I'll key that, and let's see then as we come down this path what kind of mess we made. Okay, so don't think it quite. Oh, I forgot to record the. Forgot to record or set the key when I did this. So let's go get that curvature. Set it to 0, and say set key, or key selected. So now as I come down the pike, there we go. So I'm out a little further than I want to be. Can make some adjustments now. To get a better position, and then remember, key that. Continue looking for where I have to adjust either the bend or the twist or both. Let's see what's going to happen as we get closer to 320. At this point, kind of making a decent curve, and there we are where we want to be. Okay, so if we change our range to let's say 30, rewind and play, should see the scope come in. Now you can continue obviously to adjust that any way you want. If it's if you're a tumor, if you're imagining the tumor's here on the head, you could go through this wall. But the point is, you need these three things: the CVs of the curve, the IK, the curve we're using for our IK, which in this case is the I have it labeled here as the stomach curve, but there's the scope IK, there's the curve. Okay, we can move these points to get the curve to get us on target. And then the other item we used is the bend deformer. And that should get you at least in position then to begin close examination or ultrasonic examination of the pancreas through the stomach wall and the insertion of the needle.